Ekiddako ku Star TV.
My name is Daisy Namono. I am a member of the Baha'i community of Uganda and Kampala in particular. In the Bahá'í Faith, I am serving as one of the coordinators of the Office of External Affairs. The Office of External Affairs of the Baha'is of Uganda is an agency of the National Spiritual Assembly, which is the governing body of the Baha'is of Uganda. Now, in the Office of External Affairs is charged with handling matters that are related to government, dealing with NGOs and other organizations, matters that are not principally about administration or spiritual issues, but matters mostly to do with relations to other entities in the country. Currently, the Office of External Affairs is engaged in what we call discourses, and these are meetings or interactions we have with various groups of people on matters that affect the communities in Uganda. So these might be development issues or socioeconomic issues, and also a lot of matters to do with the principles of the faith, and more specifically issues that deal with the promoting or advancing of civilization. Because as Baha'is and the Baha'i writings, we are encouraged to contribute to an ever-advancing civilization, and that is what the Baha'is do. So in the Office of External Affairs, we get in touch with people of like minds to discuss and to see how we can solve the current problems or the prevailing problems in the society. One of the areas that we are concerned with right now, and this is because we have to prioritize. There are many problems in the society, but we cannot handle all of them at the same time. So as an office, we have priorities. One of our priorities is education, The other one is equality of women and men. The third is environment and climate change. In education, in the Bahá'í Faith, we believe that education is a core teaching of the faith, in that all children or everybody should have an education, and the kind of education we should have should be an all-round education which encompasses the moral education, spiritual education, and material education. So the material education is what we get normally, which teaches us how to be successful in life. And a lot of times we look at how to make money and how to live a good life. A lot of emphasis is given to that. But there's also the spiritual teaching or the spiritual education, where we need to know our God, know why we were created, and that we were created to serve mankind. But how do we do that? We do that by learning about the teachings that we receive from the manifestations of God. And from the Baha'i point of view, that manifestation is Baha'u'llah, who is the founder of the Bahá'í Faith. Then the third aspect is the moral education, which should also be taught. Moral education looks at how we behave. How do we behave in society? What are the values that we have in society? So we believe that the education, the kind of education that we promote, must cover those three areas in order for it to be a true education. In education, the Bahá'í Faith looks a lot at the education of children, where we start very early. In fact, the teachings talk about teaching the mothers from the time of conception. When the children are conceived, the mothers should be given a training on how to bring up their children. And from that very beginning, the parents should educate their children to know God. So education in the Bahá'í Faith starts from a very, very early stage. So in the communities, we have what we call children classes that start from the time a child is as early as possible. We have these classes where children are taught about God, about creation, about the virtues, kindness, generosity, love, trustworthiness, truthfulness, and all those other virtues. So from an early stage, a child is taught before they even start formal school, because teachings tell us that a child who is well trained, although they may not be excellent in academics, they will help society much better than a child who is excellent in education, in academics, but he has not got a spiritual training. We also have, in terms of education, we also have what we call junior youth classes. So we guide the children from the age of 0 up to the age of 15, when we consider them now mature enough to make a decision about whether they want to choose the kind of religion they want to follow, whether they want to be a Baha'i or what. But during that time, you guide them about religion, about creation, about the values and the virtues. Apart from that, there's a lot of emphasis put on education of women, because the mother, as I said earlier, is supposed to train the child, but if the mother is not trained, then it's not possible to train the children. So there's a lot of emphasis in the Bahá'í Faith about education of women and girls, the girl child. In fact, if the situation is very difficult and you have to choose between education of a boy and a girl, and I hope that doesn't arise, then it is better to give the girl an education. So generally on education, that's one of the reasons that we lay emphasis on education, and we've taken it as our priority, because currently in Uganda, education is one of the challenges. So that's why education is a priority to us in Uganda. Then we have equality of women and men. In Uganda, it's not a secret that ours is a patriarchal kind of system, historically, where culture has tended to pass on resources through the men who are supposed to look after the family. Now, the Bahá'í Faith talks about equality of women and men. Not that we should be physically equal, or that we should do the things that men do, but we look at it from this kind of the spiritual aspect, where we were all created in the image of God. And what does that mean? It means that we were created with the likeliness, and we can all have the values of God. And those values are the values I've mentioned a bit earlier. We can all be equally kind. We are all given the same kind of levels of intelligence, so we all have capacity. There's no difference between the capacities that women possess and those that men possess in terms of opportunities. So when it comes to opportunities, that means that both women and men should be given equal opportunities, because they can perform equally well. And in the Bahá'í Faith, we look at the equality of men and women as wings, two wings of a bird. And that if one wing is weak, then the bird will not be able to fly. But if both wings are strong, then the bird will be able to soar higher and fly on its way. So if women are not given equal opportunities, then we find that development, we may lag and may be struggling on our way of development, even as a family. If the man and women work together, if they are consulting and discussing their family issues, the family will be able to progress higher or better than when one person is taking decisions and another one doesn't participate. So, and that is in all aspects, whether it is material growth, spiritual growth, and all others. So we look at, in the Office of External Affairs, we try to engage our partners to discuss and have conversations on how we can promote this kind of equality between men and women, where we do not compete, where one does not have to lose power for the other one to grow, but where we all contribute, and we have, we don't have losers. We all have, we are all participating equally according to our capacities. So the important thing is really the participation and the being able to, give equal opportunities to both men and women. And then I think the third aspect where we're dealing with is environment and climate change. And in this, we are looking at creation and nature as a gift from God. And that as humanity, we are custodians of nature. Therefore, we should be able to treat nature in a way that we are not destructive. And in this way, we should be able to exercise the principle of moderation, in that we take from the environment what is enough for us, but not take with greed in order to destroy the environment. So creation is part of what God gave to us as humanity, and we should be able to maintain it and not destroy it. So the communities I'm talking about these are normal communities where Baha'is live. And the activities don't involve only Baha'is. So when we have like Baha'is in a community, the activities we are talking about is for everybody. So it is the normal communities we have. They are not special communities. And as Baha'is, everybody is encouraged to participate in all ways, by the way. So when we have a community, let's say like Kikaya, when we have activities, an activity like education is not just a Baha'i activity, it's for the whole humanity. So you have all the members or people who are in that community participate. So these communities are all over the place where you find Baha'is and are able to spearhead or to be able to mobilize other people to participate. As to the pandemic, of course, being a normal community, the activities have been affected. In the first instance, when there was lockdown and we could not move and people could not socialize or come together, definitely we were not able to meet and we could not carry on a lot of these activities. Slowly by slowly, people adopted ways of doing things, and internet came into play, Zoom came into play and all that. So we've also picked up on those technologies and tried to maintain it. But this is a learning process. Some of them cannot happen as easily. So we've been affected just like another community, and we're not able to carry on as we would have wished to. If we were running or if we were walking, we started crawling. But as things open up, we are hoping that we should be able to increase the volume and the frequency of these activities. So indeed, COVID has been a setback. Also, I cannot overlook the fact that COVID has affected people's economic status. Households have been affected. So it kind of impacts on the activities as well. When people are not meeting when their livelihoods are destroyed or they don't have, then definitely life in a community gets affected.
My name is Charles Anglin Semwezi, and I am the caretaker here at the Baha'i House of Worship in Kampala. And my office basically looks after the visitors who come here, as well as the gardens and the buildings. And here at the Baha'i House of Worship, every individual, man, woman, and child is welcome and treated as equals. and it's a place that people come to pray, to meditate, and to connect with their Creator, but also to reflect on fundamental questions of life, like education of children and youth, and so on. So the Baha'i House of Worship is an institution that plays a certain role in the society by acting as a place where the community can come and meet, and it's a center of collective life. And individuals can either pray as individuals or collectively. And it is through prayer that as individuals we are able to connect with our Creator, but also to draw on the spiritual forces that we receive when we pray. And of course, everyone prays for many different reasons because we have a lot of needs as human beings. And beyond that, one reason why we pray is to express our love for God. As you know, in any relationship, if you want to strengthen a relationship, you need to communicate. So by praying and talking to God regularly, you're able to strengthen your relationship with God. But it also centers us and gives us that focus that we need in order to engage in service with our fellow human beings. So these are what we call the twin regulating principles of Baha'i life, worship and service. So through worship we draw this spiritual energy, and it is expressed in service to fellow man. And the Baha'i House of Worship plays that role in the community. The Bahá'í Faith is an independent world religion, and it was founded by a personage who we know as Baha'u'llah, which means the glory of God. And the fundamental teaching of the Baha'i Faith is the oneness of mankind. And essentially what this means is that our individual and collective identity is rooted in our spiritual nature, and the fact that all of us have been given these divine capacities by God that make us human. So the power of understanding, capacity to love, this thirst for knowledge, all these are human qualities that transcend our physical differences, our race, our backgrounds, our sex. And around this identity then we have a foundation in which humanity can build consensus about a society and future in which everyone is able to contribute to the betterment of the world, and their rights and privileges are preserved. So Baha'u'llah appeared in Iran almost 178 years ago and brought these teachings. And in the case of Uganda, a family of Iranian Baha'is arrived in Uganda in 1951. That was Mr. Musa and Mrs. Samia Banani, together with a British gentleman called Philip Hainsworth, and as well as with their daughter and son-in-law. And they took up residence in Kampala, and they opened their home to the people of Uganda, and this was in August of 1951. And by April of 1952, there was a local governing body of the Baha'is was formed in Kampala, what we know as a local spiritual assembly. And essentially it helps to organize the affairs of the community at a local level. Now towards that, the end of 1952 in October, there were already about 100 Baha'is from 15 different tribes and backgrounds in Uganda. And in 1953, a few Baha'is from Uganda arose to go and spread the faith in other parts of Africa. So Uganda really played a pivotal role in the promotion of the Baha'i faith in Africa. So Mr. Enoch Olinga traveled to the British Cameroons, and then Sam Mungono to DRC Congo, and Mr. Max Kanyerezi went to Congo Brazzaville. And the faith grew rapidly. And by 1954, there were over 670 Baha'is in Uganda from about 15 different tribes. Now, because of this rapid growth and because of the way the faith was received in Uganda, the head of the faith at the time announced in 1955 that a house of worship would be built in Africa, in Uganda specifically. And this house of worship that we see behind me is basically known as the Mother Temple of Africa. And the foundation stone was laid in 1958, January 1958, and 3 years later, in January of 1961, the temple was dedicated. And that's a brief history of how the faith came to Uganda and how the house of worship was established. We can see how the building has these natural and soft colors that harmonize with the landscape, and the building is set in these extensive and beautiful gardens, and the purpose is to create this attraction to beauty, which reminds us of our Creator. So when visitors come here and they are meditating and praying, they really feel connected to that beauty, and it reminds them of the divine that is expressed in the physical world. The dome has mosaic tiles that at the time were brought in from Italy, and the stained glass is from Germany, but the stone and the doors, the material was sourced in Uganda. And then the green tiles are from Belgium. And we can see it has 9 doors, and essentially the 9 doors that are around the entire building act as portals where everyone is welcome to enter in. So we have been asked to make these houses of worship as beautiful as possible in the world of being, and to celebrate within them the praise of God.